Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Sometimes in life, you're just flat out wrong. And I got to put my hand up and say I was dead wrong about Ole Miss going into 2025. And look, I'm wrong more times than I'm right these days. And I got the FanDuel account to show you guys that I'm wrong a lot. Boy, was I wrong about Ole Miss. Until I looked at Ole Miss going into 2025, and it wasn't just replacing someone like Jackson Dart. I looked at the defense side of the football and say a lot of difference makers that are now playing on Sundays. It just did not seem like this team was going to take a step forward in 2025. And look, I'll get up here and say this. I don't think the roster that you see on paper is as sexy as the roster that we saw in 2024 because it probably ain't. But still, sometimes you just have to have the pieces fit together a little bit more. And boy, does it feel like Ole Miss has the right blend in 2025. Just feels a little bit different. Dill, I look at this football game, Ole Miss dominated LSU in this one, but they shot themselves in the foot a lot with the penalties. They turned the football over. It felt like a game that last year, Ole Miss might have lost that game even though they were the better team. Got off to a slow start, just battled back. Dill, we got to start with Trinidad Chambliss, but look, as cool of a story as Trinidad Chambliss is, and we're going to talk about it, this team is really, really good around Trinidad as well on both sides of the football. And I got to give a massive hat tip to Pete Golden as defense coordinator, man. Absolutely dominated Garrett Nussmeier, dominated Joe Sloan as their offense coordinator as well. Pete, we got to start talking about Pete Golden as one of the best defensive coordinators that we see in this sport. And I'm just kind of thinking about this now. I apologize for the long intro, but I'm looking at it and say you got one of the best offensive minds running the offense. I think one of the best defensive coordinators running the defense. It's a damn good recipe to win in a lot of football games. I think Ole Miss has that in 2025. We got a lot to talk about before we do, and as always, number one, let's start with an apology to the Ole Miss fans. And some of the Ole Miss fans have been rocking with the boys for a while because we talked a lot about this team in 2024. I apologize for sleeping on Ole Miss in 2025. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And Dill, here's the question I want to hear from the Ole Miss fans. What are the expectations around this football team now, 2025? Because I'm looking at it and saying, Dill, we didn't really know what to expect from this football team a month ago. Now the expectations are, hey, college football playoffs, and we want to be damn competitive when we get to the college football playoffs as well. Let it fly in the comment section, Dill. I'm going to give you the T-box here. Biggest takeaway from a monster win for Ole Miss at home here?
It's probably how much better this team is looking with Trinidad Chambliss. And I think the big thing about how this offense is looking compared to what it was last year is they're spreading the ball out a little bit more.
100%.
All parts of the field. Like it did feel like last year they were really just trying to throw the ball down the field, play after play after play. And if that wasn't there, the offense kind of stalled out. Again, they may not have the same top end talent, if you will, but they're just doing a much better job distributing the football. And it does feel like it's working a little bit better in terms of what Lane Kiffin wants to do.
It's way more multidimensional. Like last year, it was Jackson Dart, Trey Harris when he was healthy. And when Trey Harris was healthy, we just pushing that sucker down the field to Trey Harris. And look, I don't hate the strategy because Jackson Dart is a damn good quarterback. Trey Harris was a damn good wide receiver. But it felt like if teams could take that away, Ole Miss didn't have a ton of answers outside of that. I'm looking at this Ole Miss offense in 2025 and say, Dill, you got so many different pass catchers that you have a lot of confidence in. You got so many different pass catchers who can do a lot of different things. You have your yards after the catch guys. You have the guys who can work vertically down the field. I think Daquan Wright, man, one of the most underrated tight ends in the country. But hell, you also can run the football. Like Kwan Lacey, Kwan Lacey's run like one of the best backs in the SEC. And so I'm looking at it and saying, look, do you have the top end talent? Is Trinidad Chambliss going to be the NFL draft pick that Jackson Dart was? Probably not. But you got more ways to attack an opposing defense. And when you have all of those answers, it's hard to shut down all those answers, man. And that's the biggest storyline for me about this Ole Miss offense. There's a lot of balance in this one, too. 42 carries.
He keeps them on track. Like they're not taking a ton of negative plays outside the penalties, and their offensive line much better than I kind of thought it was going to be. Like you got top 5, and they were running the ball pretty well too. Like they were
Yeah.
moving guys on LSU a bit and like controlling the tempo of that game.
Yep.
And that's been something you look, everybody struggled to do that with LSU. LSU's done a
Yeah.
really good job on defense of playing on their terms. Like Ole Miss was, even when they weren't scoring a ton of points, I mean, those were turnovers and some penalties. It's like Ole
Yes.
Miss throughout this football game played the offense, at least on the
I don't
offense for the
I
most
don't
part.
think you took sack. And I should have looked at it. I don't remember. I watched the game back just now. I don't think there was a sack, maybe one. And though that story is
No
kind of painted there. Thank you. 8 of 16 on third downs. Like you kind of stayed on schedule. You stayed in those down and distances where you had the whole playbook open. And what's most impressive for me, Dill, is I mean, we probably got to talk about it. Trinidad Chambliss coming from the Division II ranks to starting quarterback in the SEC. A starting quarterback in the SEC, one of the best teams in this conference right now. You best believe it. Like go look at the SEC landscape, and we've been having a lot of this conversation lately. I mean, the quarterbacks that we thought we could trust the most in this conference, they don't look all that good. Like DJ Lagway looks lost. Garrett Nussmeier looks lost. Arch Manning does not look very good. You're looking at Trinidad Chambliss and say, hey, he might be one of the more trustworthy quarterbacks that we see in this conference. And Dill, this kid is a freaking gamer, man. He can make it work when it's not perfect. Look, I don't know if he's going to be the same NFL draft prospect that Jackson Dart is. What was most impressive in that football game is it got off to a slow start, right? You had to punt the first couple of drives. You went down early. Trinidad did not flinch. Like there were a lot of people, including myself, that's like, oh, Blake Baker going up against a guy that's I mean, this is the first legit defense they've played. I don't count Arkansas as a legit defense. And he didn't flinch, man. In fact, he got better as the game went on. Having that kind of difference maker, that kind of elevator at the quarterback position, especially in a conference where I don't think there's that many of them at the quarterback spot, that's a huge storyline for Ole Miss in 2025 too.
And he's got guys around him. I don't mean to like minimize their talent because
Mm-hmm.
I think like a guy like Deuce Alexander, like yeah, he
Yeah, he's a
doesn't
dude.
carry the same name weight as some other guys in this
Sure.
country, but like
Yep.
what he's doing, I mean, he's making contested catches for a guy who's not necessarily the biggest physically
Yep.
imposing guy. But again, I think a lot of it is everybody can run with the ball after they catch it.
Yep.
They all run really good routes, and there's just a lot more separation than it felt like there was last year. So I think when we talk about like the pieces fitting together, it
Yeah.
really is exemplified by how these wideouts fit with what Trinidad Chambliss is probably best at, which frankly is not probably throwing the ball vertically down the field. I don't really think we see him do that a ton, but he's really accurate underneath. He's good. He's got good
Ball's
timing.
out. Yeah, ball's out, man. Yeah, like does not hold the ball much. And well, you mentioned it briefly, but I think it's important to focus on. The offensive line's way better than I thought it was going to be too. Blake Baker, and we knew he was going to do this, especially going up against the guy that Division II quarterback. We gonna heat him up. 41% blitz rate from that LSU defense. We expected that. We knew LSU was going to bring pressure. Dill, Trinidad Chambliss was kept clean on 80% of his dropbacks. So even with the blitz packages, we were picking up the blitzes and we were keeping Trinidad Chambliss clean. Once again, is the offensive line filled with guys that are going to be top 50 NFL draft picks? I don't think so. But as a unit, like playing really well together, giving off stunts, picking up blitzes, that's really, really impressive too, because there's not a lot of offensive lines that are playing like that, man. A lot of offensive lines that might look at LSU. Like, shoot, LSU from a talent standpoint, they've probably recruited the position better than Ole Miss has. But
And they hit the portal harder. It's like you probably say both in terms
what
of LSU, and you got an Ole Miss offensive line that's far outplaying what
yeah.
LSU's doing.
What unit's playing better as a unit? It's Ole Miss offensive line, ain't no question about that. Defense. That was
The
my
young
bigger
defensive
concern.
lineman might be the biggest thing in this country. Like
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what are you gonna have? You didn't really add a ton in the portal, but you look like guys like Will Eccles playing really well.
Yeah.
Cam Franklin,
Nope.
Deshaun Womack, who I thought was horrible at LSU,
Yeah.
actually was kind of like dominant yesterday. He looked like, I mean, the amount of improvement in his game year over year is unbelievable. I don't think I can say enough about how much better these young defensive linemen are
Yep.
than I frankly thought. There's certainly a bit of a gap. Like LSU's defensive line last year is probably a better unit, but it's not like drastic because these young guys can play.
Here's what they're doing though, and this is the beauty of Pete Golden, where he probably realized, all right, in the front seven, we're probably not as disruptive as we were last year. It's hard to replace guys like Princely and Walter Nolan. I'm a JJ Peg. I'm probably leaving some guys out because they sent a lot of guys to the NFL. Okay, that might we might not be a team that's sacking the quarterback 11% of dropbacks and being super stingy against the run, right? Maybe that's not this Ole Miss defense this year. Well, we're going to build this defense around what we do well. And man, do you fly around on the back end? All right, we'll rush 3, drop 8, rally and tackle in to the football. Still, LSU with all the play. Look, Garrett Nussmeier might flat out stink, right? They still got difference makers on the outside. Nick Anderson, Barian Brown, Aaron Anderson. Dill, LSU had 2 plays that went for over 25 yards. They had that 150-yard play. Outside of that, LSU found no explosive plays, and you have to give so much credit to, number one, Pete Golden. You talk about a defense that just, the zone drops were elite. There was not a lot of throwing windows for Garrett Nussmeier to push that sucker down the field. But then secondly, if you're going to rush 3, drop 8, and try to keep everything in front of you, you damn well better sure you're tackling. And number 2, you got to get off the field on third downs. LSU was 2 of 11 on third downs, elite number for Pete Golden and Ole Miss. Secondly, he missed 4 tackles on the game. They're tackling in space. It's one thing to say, hey, we're going to rush 3, drop 8, and make you earn it. Then you got to go actually make them earn it. And Ole Miss did that.
Because if you can take that away from LSU, and again, that is what they have playmakers. Like, again, there's a lot of things that aren't working. The offensive line's not playing incredible, and Nussmeier is not playing incredible, but they have been able to attack teams by getting the ball out to wide receivers quickly and letting them go to work. And they have guys who are like elite in that, like Aaron Anderson, Barian Brown, really good. Thomas, very, very good. Like, they're guys, that's their skill set, that's their bread and butter. Yeah, Ole Miss, their ability to take that away because they just tackle at a higher level than the average college, or not the average, but like most college football teams, I should say. I mean, that's like a difference-making stat now because teams don't tackle like I feel like they used to.
Yeah, 100%.
You make so much progress in terms of being a good defense.
I want to know what my biggest takeaway is, and we'll probably cut this one, is that it is – in an era of college football where we follow the recruiting ranks so much and we follow the transfer portal so much because there's so much movement, we get really sucked into what these teams look like on paper, right? And who are the best team? Who has looked like the best teams in the SEC this year? It's a team like Ole Miss and it's a team like Missouri. Whereas it's not the sexiest rosters, man, but if you build your team around your talent, find out what you do well, and then go out and execute it, that's a recipe.
And I will say, I think there's an element of like Ole Miss has cranked their recruiting up. Again, they're not recruiting like at an elite powerhouse level, maybe you could say, but it is better. And I do think you're starting to see that bear out at certain spots. Like you got some offensive linemen who are coming up now through the pipeline who are really good players. On the defensive line, it's probably even more evident. Like those guys, they hit on, like they're big dogs. They're Cam Franklins, they're Eccles, they're Suntrain Perkinses. They hit on those guys, and those guys are performing at a really high level.
They walk that line. And again, I know I'm going to keep going back and forth, Ole Miss, Missouri, but both of these teams do it at a high level where we're going to recruit at – Ole Miss recruits better than people appreciate. You know, this narrative that Ole Miss just used the portal. Look, they use the portal. I ain't going to get up here and say they don't. But they also have been bringing in pretty consistent top 20 classes. And then they balance it with the portal. And they're walking that line of roster building really, really high level. And you have to say this, Lane Kiffin and whatever that personnel department looks like, they're freaking nails, man. Like they hit. When they go out and get guys in the portal, man, they hit and they end up being good football players. And you can't say that. It's one thing to use the portal. It's another thing to get good players. Almost gets good players. We'll pause it out. I can't believe how wrong I was about this Ole Miss football team. I got to give Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss their flowers. This team's going to be really freaking fun to talk about the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.